Hey everyone, what's going on? It is Friday, BRAP rant. Got a few things to talk about. I had a good buddy of ours, Matt Piscatella, had a Piscatella sighting today. We'll talk about that in just a bit, but let's go ahead and officially kick off the show right now. All right, everyone, welcome back. Welcome back. If you haven't done so, please check out this past Wednesday's BRAP. We had Slow-Mo Backslap on B Money 101. It was a great show. Talked a little sports, little football, talked about Halo, even got Slow-Mo's sales pitch on what should be or what the next Halo game should be like, which, interestingly enough, he suggested that maybe it should be a dating sim of sorts. So definitely check out that show. I'm actually going to drop a show. I can't even talk. I'm going to drop a link. To yesterday's show, or Wednesday's show, I should say, in the live chat here. So go check that out. But anyhow, give me a sec here. All right. Yeah, so you can see here on the screen our good buddy Matt Piscatella. See, we have a Matt Piscatella sighting. Now, Matt is actually left. And actually, do me a quick favor before I get into the topic of Matt and August Circana numbers. Please hit that like button. I'm actually also going to drop, outside of the link that I just dropped, I'm also going to drop a link to this show. If you could do me a solid and retweet the link to that show as well, that'd be to today's show. That'd be great. Certainly appreciate the support as always. So yeah, we actually and just as it relates to topics, we're going to be discussing. We do tend to like to add some nuance to things that we hear that are out there, narratives, if you will. There's particular content creators who suggested that Xbox will be buying Take-Two next, that this will happen in 2026. We'll add some additional context to that, just so that people aren't being misinformed. You know, we're not big fans of misinformation, disinformation here on the show. We're also going to discuss Madden football, and Metaphor ReFantazio sets a huge sales record for Atlas. And actually, let's talk about that first, because Metaphor ReFantazio may be a game that we see this year being discussed in conversation for Game of the Year. It is 90. I think. Let me check Metacritic real quick. Last I saw was at a 93 Metacritic. It's currently 9 out of 10 on Steam right now. 549 user reviews. All right, yeah. So it's at a 93 Metacritic. I'll give you the Metacritic for all the platforms. Currently sits at a 93 on the Xbox Series platforms or consoles. That's based on 29 critic reviews. On PC, it's a 91 based on 22 critic reviews. And it's at a 93 on PlayStation 5 based on 37 critic reviews. So it's going to be one of those games that's going to be, I think, in conversation for Game of the Year. I've played the demo. I'm about 3.5 hours into the demo. I've thoroughly enjoyed this game. I'm looking forward to diving into it a bit more. Later on. And so per reporting today, we know a person reporting today, Metaphor ReFantazio has set a record for Atlas Studios' most sales in the shortest amount of time. That's 1 million copies sold day one. Now, this beats the previous record held by Persona 3, which sold 1 million in 5 days. This game has sold 1 million in just a day. So it is doing well. And if I'm looking at this game, just judging based on the production values here, the animation, I wouldn't surprise me if this game didn't cost a lot to make, and it's retailing at $70. So you do the math. They've sold 1 million copies in one day at $70 a pop. They've made a lot of money. And it wouldn't surprise me, like, if this game was, I don't know, maybe in that 40 to maybe that 45 million, maybe less budget, development budget. I could be wrong. I'm just look, this is just, I am speculating here. But it wouldn't surprise me if this game is already profitable for Atlas. So what's going on, man, overboard? So I see Corey Dillon left a message before he went live today. He said, nothing else to talk about. Just Google this. Only thing that popped up was an article from June. I think Corey may have messaged me on Twitter. He seemed a little, I don't know. I don't want to use the word upset. Just, it was interesting that he texted me and said, oh, well, you know, why are you talking about this isn't news? Again, it's to add context, some nuance to something that a content creator had said about Microsoft purchasing Take-Two. All right, so again, Metaphor ReFantazio is a 93 on Metacritic. Again, like as I said earlier, I think this is going to be in conversation for Game of the Year. Although, as Game Logic kindly reminded me today, no GRPG. GRPGs don't typically win Game of the Year. I think it hasn't been a GRPG that's won Game of the Year, at least at the Keeleys. Metaphor ReFantazio sits at a 92 right now on OpenCritic. Let me give you some games for the month of October. And we had this conversation on Wednesday. I think actually that 2024 has been a really pretty solid year for video games. This month alone, games that are available, there's 4 games, 4 games that are reviewed well. Metaphor ReFantazio is 92, Dragon Ball Sparking Zero is 82, Silent Hill 2 Remake 87, Diablo 4 Vessel Hatred 86, Until Dawn being the lowest, coming at 69 as the Until Dawn remake, 69 Metacritic or OpenCritic. Some upcoming releases for the month of October alone: Super Mario Party Jamboree, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, which comes out October 24th, Life is Strange, October 20th. I haven't seen a whole lot of, and this could be me, just let me know what you guys think of the live chat. I haven't seen a lot of, I've seen a ton of marketing, as much as I thought I would have seen around Call of Duty Black Ops 6. I did see one commercial, but I haven't seen a whole lot. Perhaps that picks up as we get closer to, we are 2 weeks away. Perhaps that picks up a bit as we get closer to launch. All right. Game Logic will actually be joining me here just a sec. He's actually going through some updates on his PC. The joys of owning a PC. All right. I'm going to run down the list of top rated games from OpenCritic. Their 2024 Hall of Fame. Again, this goes back to the kind of the conversation that we had on Wednesday about how solid 2024 has been. Astrobot 95, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth 93, Metaphor ReFantazio 92, Balatro 91, Tekken 8 90, Hades 2 90, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth 90. It's been, I think it's, and this is, I'm not reading all the games in the Hall of Fame, but this is, again, I think this has been a pretty good year for gaming, which is why I'm surprised I see so much negativity and anger directed at all things video games. All right. Give me a sec here. I got to tweet this out. All right. So solid year for video games. So we still have Dragon Age coming up too. That's coming out as well. Definitely interested in picking that up. All right, let's take a look at the August NPD numbers. I keep calling it NPD, it's Circana. The August Circana numbers per Matt Piscatella, who's no longer on Twitter, by the way, or X, because the fanboys chased him away because people can't be adults and have mature conversations around data points, unfortunately. What is Larry Croft? What is that? No idea what you mean there. Locoism 1025. I don't know what you're referring to, but all right. So per Matt Piscatella, August 2024, U.S. video game market highlights from Circana. Projected U.S. total spending on video game hardware, content, and accessories fell 7% during August 2024 versus a year ago to 4.1 billion. A 5% increase in mobile content spending was offset by declines across other areas. So there's Matt's little infographic here. His little, there we go. See, video game hardware down 28%. All right. 2024 year-to-date spending is now 1% higher than a year ago at 36.3 billion. 4% growth in video game content spending driven by mobile and 8% increase in accessories has thus far offset a 28% drop in video game hardware spending. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in November with the release of the PlayStation 4 Pro. We see increased spending there as a result. All right, here are the August 2024 top-selling premium games. No surprise here. Huge Madden NFL 25 use. It's number one. I don't know how huge that is, considering that Madden typically tops the charts this time of the year. But we do see Madden 25 as one, and then EA College Sports EA Sports College Football 2025 is actually number two. It was number one the previous month, released in the month of July. So EA's holding the top two slots of Circana for top selling games for the month of August. This includes both dollar sales, physical and digital, from digital data sharing publishers, and excludes add-on content. Star Wars Outlaws debuted at number 3, despite Ubisoft saying they weren't necessarily happy with the performance of retail performance of the game at launch. The EA Sports MVP bundle, which includes EA Sports College Football 2025 and NFL Football 2025, debuted at number 2 last month, but it's number 4 now. People are still buying that bundle. That's an expensive bundle. What's the cost of the EA Sports MVP bundle? Let me check that out real quick. $150. $150. So yeah, people are spending $150 on video games. That's a bundle though. All right, so that is at number 4 this month. Elden Ring is number 5. It was number 3. Hogwarts Legacy still doing big numbers for Warner Brothers Games. Look at that. Number 6. It actually moved up. It was 7 the month before. Bring in Hamp here. We have Hamp has just joined us. What's going on, Hamp?
Hello, my friend. How are you?
Doing well. Just our buddy. We just lost Hamp. I don't know what happened to Hamp. Just got dropped. He was there for a second. Now he's gone. All right, let me see if I can get him back on here. All right. Okay, we'll wait for. Hey, what's going on, Ice Cream Gaming? We'll wait for Hamp to come back. Oh, there he is. All right. Hamp's back. What's going on, Hamp?
Nothing much, man. How are you?
I'm doing well. Just go. I forgot. Since Matt hasn't been on Twitter, I forgot all about Circana, and I just happened to come across a post on Twitter sharing Circana numbers. So I'm just going over the Circana numbers that he shared on Thread, because now Matt's on Thread. He's not engaged on X anymore. I hope he comes back, but I kind of understand why he left. So people getting upset over his data that he shares with us every month. But anyhow. All right, let's go back to so Logic. I was just actually going over the top 20 games, top 20 best-selling games for the month of August. I was just discussing Hogwarts Legacy at number 6. I mean, that game, the game came out, what, February? Was it January 2023? I don't remember. I think it was January 2023. Does that sound right? Let me look this up.
Yeah, it was early last year.
Okay. And look at it. It's sitting at number 6 right now. It's selling gangbusters.
Yeah, it's like the GTA of this generation.
Yeah, right. Minecraft's number 7. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 is number 8. Marvel Spider-Man 2 is 9. Visions of Mana debuted at number 10. I need to pick that up, by the way. Great. Look, Hamp, it's been a great year for JRPGs. Gundam Breaker 4 is at number 11. The Elder Scrolls Online, number 12. Helldivers 2, 13. Mario Kart 8, 14. Jeez, how many copies has Mario Kart 8 sold now? Were they like at 50 million at one point? I need to look this up now. Since its release, as of March of this year, it has sold 61.97 million units. That is Mario Kart 8. Ghost of Tsushima 15, Sea of Thieves 16, MLB The Show 17, Forza Horizon 5 18, up from 29, Gran Turismo 7 19, up from 27, EA Sports FC at 20, was at 9 the month before. So those are the top 20 best-selling games for the month of August.
Is it is Mario Kart the best-selling Nintendo Switch game?
I believe it is at 61.9 or 61.97 million. I believe it is. As you say, Hamp, the game has sold bonga. Say Walton says Spider-Man's still selling. Yeah, Spider-Man's still doing very well. Logic, any thoughts on the top 20?
No, not off the top of my head.
All right. Let's see here. Let me go down to year to date ending August 24. So these are the best selling games of 2024.
And just so this is. Did you get this on Thread, or did somebody copy and paste like screenshots of this on Twitter?
People had shared what Matt had posted on Twitter, and then I found this is his. So what I'm showing here is on his Thread account, or from his Thread account.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So people did share what he posted, but he's not, and he posted this on LinkedIn as well. I follow him on LinkedIn. All right, so year to date ending August 2024, top best selling premium games, again, includes physical, digital. EA Sports is number 1 right now. Kind of surprised by that, Hamp. Usually it's Call of Duty still. Helldivers 2 is number 2. Man, so that's been as much as we have said that Concord is or was a retail failure, just not a Sony just doing away with it more or less. Helldivers 2 has been a huge success for them. Currently sits as the number 2 best-selling game in 2024. Followed by Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, EA Sports, the MVP bundle. Now, Hamp, that is the NFL and college football bundle. Those 2 games bundled together retails for $150. Dragon's Dogma 2 is 6. MLB The Show is 7. WWE 2K24. I think WWE 2K24 is in the PlayStation Plus premium tier. I need to go back and look. If it is, I need to start playing that. I got to create my character. That's number 8. Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth, number 9. Now, hey, wasn't Square Enix not happy with the financial or the sales performance of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth? Did it not meet their expectations? I don't remember. I'm thinking maybe it didn't, but it's at number 9. Hogwarts Legacy is 10, Tekken 8, 11, Madden 25, 12. Surprised Madden's at 12, considering how popular, how well that game typically sells. NBA 2K24 is at 13. Madden NFL 24 is at 14. Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is 15. Minecraft 16. Grand Theft Auto 5 17. Grand Theft Auto 5 is back. EA Sports FC 24 18. Persona 3 Reload 19. And Marvel Spider-Man 2 20th, the 20th best-selling game of 2024. All right, Hap, any commentary there on that list? I don't know if we lost Hamp. Maybe he stepped away. All right. All right, let's go down here the list. All All right, some other notable things here. August video game hardware spending dropped 36% when compared to a year ago at to 208 million. All current generation console hardware platforms declined by at least 34% when compared to a year ago, with the Switch showing the sharpest year-on-year fall at 41%. I'm not surprised considering the Switch has hit pretty much critical mass in terms of sales. I'll have to go back and look at the PlayStation 5 numbers. I believe the PlayStation 5 last September was really high. I'd have to go back and pull those numbers, though. So the reasons for the PlayStation 5, I'm sorry. Again, the reasons for the Switch being low, again, as I just said, it's hit that point of critical mass now in terms of sales. All right, Hamp, are you back? If you stepped away.
Yeah, I am. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Oh, you did put a message in the private chat. Would help if I checked that, right? All right, and then PlayStation 5 again led the month's hardware market in unit and dollar sales, with Xbox Series ranking second across both measures. Consumer spending on accessories in August fell 3% when compared to a year ago to 173 million. Growth in the remote play device segment, PlayStation Portal, was offset by a 10% year-on-year decline in gamepad spending. So, Ham, I'm actually
Portal was up, but gamepad spending was down.
Exactly. Yep. And I'm actually seeing the PlayStation Portal now on retail shelves, like regularly available now, especially at my local Walmart.
That means it's not selling.
Oh my God. Yes. That means clothes aren't selling. I regularly see clothes stocked at Walmart. Socks and shoes are regularly in stock. That means they're not selling either. The PS5 DualSense wireless controller in Midnight Black was August's best-selling accessory in dollar sales, while PlayStation Portal remained the bestseller for 2024 year to date. You remember when everyone was asking Hamp who asked for the PlayStation Portal? Who was it for? And
I mean, they've asked that for every Sony accessory, right? Who's the PlayStation Portal for? Who's the DualSense Edge for? Who's the PlayStation 5 Pro for?
Yeah, and then we see how the market responds to these things. You know, they tend to be like the best selling accessories, like every month.
Crazy to think that the premium console with the highest user install base has the knock-on effect of the accessories that go along with that console being the best-selling accessories.
Where have I seen that knock-on effect elsewhere? Where have I seen something similar like that? All right, let's see here. Headset and headphone spending during 2024 year-to-date period ending August finished 10% higher than a year ago. And to your point, Hamp, PlayStation 5 Pulse Elite and wireless headset is the best-selling headset in year-to-date consumer spending. Again, this is the more expensive. I think this is the $150 PlayStation Pulse headset versus the $100 Pulse headset.
Wait, so you're saying that consumers on that install base are actually buying the more expensive accessory, even though a cheaper alternative is available?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. So what does that say about consumer spending habits, Hamp? It
seems like all the laws of economics that I've been taught by every other YouTubing channel seem to be incorrect.
As they often are.
Because the market seems to perform almost in the exact opposite to what those YouTube channels tell me.
I think that always tends to be the case. I think that is the one consistent in all of this, is that the opposite happens to what some of these YouTube channels often say, or the conversations that people have on social media. The who is this for? It's too expensive, and then you see how the market responds, and the market is telling you that it wants the higher end Pulse Elite wireless headset. That there is a subset of the consumer base in the gaming industry that wants a premium experience, that wants to be in a walled garden ecosystem, very similar to Apple, and they want to buy these things that are tied to the ecosystem, these accessories.
Because those YouTube channels, what they have taught me is that consumers always prefer the less expensive product.
They would have you believe that, Hamp.
Wow, man, I'm gonna have to go back and do some reading up.
Yeah. Lay says Colin from Last Dance says the PlayStation Portal is selling out. I don't know when Colin said that, but it is. I'm seeing it readily available on, at least again, this is anecdotal. It's just my local Walmart. That could be different elsewhere. All right. August top 10 best-selling premium games on the PlayStation. Madden 2025 is number 1. No surprise there. EA Sports College Football 2025 is number 2. Star Wars Outlaw number 3. Marvel Spider-Man 2 4. EA Sports MVP bundle is number 5. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 is 6. Elden Ring 7. Minecraft 8. Gran Turismo 7, 9. Visions of Mana is 10. Great to see people buying Visions of Mana. The top 10 best-selling games on Xbox for August, pretty much in line with the top 4, or top 3, I should say. In line with the top 3 of PlayStation: Madden 25, EA Sports College Football 25, 3 Star Wars Outlaw, 4 MVP, the EA Sports MVP bundle, 5 Elder Scrolls Online, 6 Minecraft, 7 Forza Horizon 5, 8 Elden Ring, 9 Forza Horizon 4, and 10 Hogwarts Legacy.
What's crazy to me is that one of the best-selling was this sales?
Sales, yes.
It's crazy to me that one of the best-selling Xbox games on the console is still Forza Horizon 4.
Yeah, I mean it does very well.
Yeah, and I mean it's selling alongside Forza Horizon 5. I would have expected to see one of them and not the other, but that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And can you go back to the PlayStation list, please? Were there any Xbox titles in that list?
Minecraft.
Okay. I don't count that one, but yeah.
Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3.
Yeah, I don't count that one either.
Wait, why don't you count them? They're first party now.
No, I mean yes, but as far as me looking for the creative significance of an Xbox studio game selling in the top 10 on PlayStation, I just wanted to see how that trend was going.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
I mean those two games had already traditionally existed on the PlayStation 5 before the business pivot of late February 2024.
Yeah, this would you're looking for games like
Sea of Thieves, Grounded,
Pentiment, yeah.
Anything coming from the new strategy.
Yeah. And I'm not so sure we've seen those games. I'd have to go back and look. I don't recall seeing those games in the top 10 PlayStation.
They popped when they first went over.
Did they? Okay.
Yeah, Sea of Thieves was definitely up there.
Did.
I want to say Grounded was up there as well.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, so
I definitely see Sea of Thieves. Yeah, so they mentioned that. You remember? Yeah,
they made a splash when they first showed up. So, let's Xbox would hope that would continue. That like the month that it ships a game to PlayStation, right? That it would sell really well.
Yeah, I mean, you would hope that would be the case, or they would. All right, let's go back to. So we talked about Xbox. Talked about Mario Kart, or not Mario Kart. Mario Kart's number 1. So this is Nintendo's top 10. Mario Kart 8. Again, I mentioned the numbers earlier. 60-something million units sold. Hogwarts Legacy is 2. Super Mario Brothers Wonder is 3. Super Smash Brothers Ultimate 4. Luigi's Mansion 5, Pokemon Scarlet Violet is 6, Minecraft is 7. Not only if can you imagine how many more units Mario Kart 8 would sell if it was on more platforms?
What's crazy impressive is on the Nintendo Switch top list, everything is published by Nintendo. It's all first party.
Oh, it's all first party except for Hogwarts Legacy. But that's super impressive. Now imagine if Luigi's Mansion 2 was on all platforms. They'd make more money. Just makes sense.
But BRAP, what those other YouTube channels taught me is that exclusives don't make sense anymore. That nobody plays exclusives.
No, they don't sell.
Yeah.
Yeah. But pretty much, yeah. I mean, everything. I mean, the 9 of the top 10 games are Nintendo published first party games. So, Luigi's Mansion.
I mean, in fact, I was told influencers out at GDC that everyone that they were talking to was saying how exclusives are bad, and the industry just needs to start publishing everything to every platform. In fact, I heard influencers who then went and gave that speech to some school kids. That the school kids then stood up and clapped.
The school kids gave her a rousing applause. Yes. But it's interesting, and we kind of poke fun at those pundits and influencers. That the conversation is always more nuanced than selling more. And as you often say, it comes down to a company's OKRs, right? And what their financial goals are, and what their appetite for risk is, and people seem to forget that. So, all right, let's go to the August 2024 top 10 titles played on PlayStation 5, ranked by everyone's favorite word, monthly active users. Fortnite number 1, no surprise there. Call of Duty number 2, Grand Theft Auto 5 number 3, Roblox number 4, EA Sports College Football 25 is 5, NBA 2K24 is 6, Minecraft is 7, Valorant is 8. Really cool to see Valorant up there, number 8. Madden 2025 is 9. I'm really surprised to see Madden outside of the top 5, considering how popular that franchise is. And then First Descendant is number 10.
Well, quite honestly, it's cannibalization, right? I mean, there's a good chance that the main thing it's competing against is EA College Football 25.
That's actually a good point, Hamp. I mean, there's something to be said for that too. I mean, you may have people that, and I wonder if that was once they stopped. I mean, once they stopped making college football, because I do know people that only played college football years and years ago when they were releasing college football.
Well,
didn't touch Madden.
You definitely have a demographic of people who only care about college football, right? They don't like pro football. They feel like it's not as competitive. They feel like it's about show and money, and they feel like there's more heart, right, by watching the kids playing college. And that it wouldn't surprise me that translates right over to people who also game.
Let's go. I'm gonna pull it. Sam Walton says YouTubers have also said games marketed by Xbox are selling more because they were marketed by Xbox. Is that a reference to Metaphor ReFantazio? I haven't heard that that particular. I haven't read that, Sam. But anyhow, so yeah, I think that to your point, Hamp, there could be some cannibalization effect there, where you see EA College Football ahead of Madden in terms of player gauge. Yeah.
So Sam, is what you're saying is that influencers and YouTubers are running around saying that Metaphor ReFantazio is selling well because it's multi-platform and because Xbox marketed it. So, every other platform and the publisher should thank Xbox for its success. Even though theoretically, I'm relatively certain, just simply based on user install base, that the smallest number of units sold would be on Xbox theoretically. Is Metaphor ReFantazio on Nintendo?
No, it's on PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series consoles. And I would, if I'm a betting man, to your point, Hap, I would say that the install base will probably look something like this: PS5, PC, and Xbox.
I don't. You don't think it'll sell more on PC with it being a concurrent release and it being available globally in all regions?
I don't think so. No. I could be wrong.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to see.
Yeah.
Is it
they provide us a breakdown?
Is it a $70 game?
It is a $70 game.
Okay, yeah, it'll probably be more on PS5 because PC players tend not to buy $70. They do sometimes, but they definitely wait because they know those discounts are coming.
They're waiting for those Steam sales.
Yeah.
Or CD keys, you know. Yeah, I'm actually surprised that it's a $70 game. You know, and I'm surprised that I didn't see a lot of conversation giving the visual aesthetic of and this is why I think some of these conversations around pricing are a bit disingenuous, because they typically I don't see them being consistent or applied consistently across the board. You look at the visual aesthetic of Metaphor ReFantazio, and I didn't hear anyone saying, "Oh, they're charging, that game looks last gen, they're charging $70 for it." I didn't see that conversation happening with this game.
Well, because it's also on Xbox. Most of that comes from the Xbox fan base because the game skips Xbox. But when the game is concurrently on Xbox, of course, they're not going to throw shade at it because it's on their platform.
But I also have seen that for games that have released on Xbox too. So I what you're describing, I have seen that happen. I've also seen it. I've also seen that conversation when it happens with games that are released on all platforms, where people it probably more so earlier in the generation. Maybe people now are accustomed to like it's $70 games. That's just the norm now. But I was surprised that I didn't see that conversation happening around Metaphor ReFantazio, because it isn't a visually stunning game. It doesn't seem to have, you know, a big budget behind it, a development budget.
So you think here 4 years into the generation, the $70 price point for new games has normalized?
I believe it has, yes.
You love to see it.
I mean, this goes back to what we often say about the market, right? The market will respond appropriately. They'll either say yes or no. And clearly the market has responded and said, yes, we're okay with this price point, despite the kicking and screaming of certain YouTubers. And again, we're not advocating for more expensive games. We're just talking about the dynamics of the market, the free market.
I don't look. Like, maybe I don't know that I want to take that off the table. Like the not advocating for more expensive games. Here's what I want, right? For any industry, for any product that I am a fan of, that I like, I want the vendor, right, and I want the employees to be able to make an honest life's wage, right? I want them to do what they need to do to make money. Now, I get and I understand that a lot of that is coming from middlemen and investors who don't add any value, but want their palms greased, right, out of the product. But that is a nature of living in a capitalist economy. So I can't change that, right? I can't help it. But at the end of the day, like, look, if we're complaining about production costs of games going up, then my hope isn't for the industry to function like the United States, right, and just operate at a deficit, right, and still continue to crank out AAA games, right? I want people to make the money that's necessary to be profitable in an acceptable business model, in a business model that is acceptable to the consumer base. So if game prices need to go up, then game prices need to go up.
Oh man, Happy, you were going to have people in the comment section later say that you were advocating for higher prices. I understand your point, but
I am advocating for capitalist economies to continue to function in the manner by which we have all come to understand that they function, since Adam Smith wrote Wealth of Nations. Like, I don't understand why we have an expectation for things.
Wealth of Nations, though.
Well,
That's part of the problem.
There we go. Like, I don't know why. I don't know what is the logical basis for expecting it to operate differently. Simply as you and I often discuss, simply because it's video games.
But that's what it is, though, Amp.
You know.
But that's what it is. To your point, like people expect the industry to operate differently than other consumer products, and it doesn't. We always say this. It's not subject to a different set of rules or laws than other consumer products.
Yeah,
but people just I don't know. I don't know why they apply or they apply a different levels, a different standard to the industry.
Yeah. So like, I mean, I will do one step aside and try and articulate one difference in my feeling, right? I'm not necessarily advocating for higher prices, but I'm also not advocating for developers starving, right? And not being able to send their kids to college, right? And yes, unfortunately, what sucks about the system is that unfortunately, in order for that to happen, in order for that developer to make an honest life's earnings, right, and send their kid to college, that means some other fat cat who's not adding any value, right, again, has to be able to go buy another Maserati. And that's the thing that sucks. That I get, right? But that doesn't take off the table, right, that I still want the industry to function in a healthy manner in accordance with the laws of economics.
Would you agree that there needs to be a balancing act then between kind of what we see on the, what you described, the fat cat buying Maserati, but there needs to be a healthy balance though, where you can actually, where people can earn a good salary, good living, where you can attract good talent to make good games, right? Yeah.
And I mean, and it can't just be like people will hear attract good talent and people say, oh, well, indies. I'm like, but again, people need to understand indies are highly risk prone. Not everybody has that appetite. Look, I make great money. I don't want to have to go be an entrepreneur to make great money, right? That would kind of suck. And I'm glad that entrepreneurship is there for people who have that appetite, but I've never been willing to starve, right, in order to realize my dreams, right? If I was, I would have gone to Hollywood, right? But look, I wasn't interested in waiting tables. So, I mean, we just want health all around, and it like I said, it sucks that people. But my thing is back to your question, right? Do we want it to be a balancing act? I'm like, yes, I do, but I don't want to heap accountability for that on the gaming industry solely by itself, in stark contrast to every other industry that is like we don't run around like, great Scott. People drive, right? People go put gas in their car. We're not sitting here yelling at the gas companies every single day, right? Because fat cats are getting their palms greased and getting rich off the oil industry. Like, even though I would suspect that gasoline is something that we buy at an even greater frequency than video games.
Oh, I'm yelling at the gas companies or the oil companies.
Yeah, I mean, yes, we yell at them, but like we almost yell at them as a commodity, right? As a mundanity, as a thing that just always always is woven into our society to grouse about.
But it's also different though in the aspect that, like, I need gas, I need food, those aren't necessarily.
You need gas.
Yeah, my vehicle needs a lot of gas.
You don't need gas for the vehicle you drive. Right?
I mean, you could argue I don't need the vehicle that I own, but
just the same way. Look, I live a significant
those are necessities, though. I mean, but people are treating gaming like it's some kind of necessity, that they're owed something, and that I don't necessarily agree with, that they're entitled to. Yeah. Where these other things are necessities, groceries, gas, shelter, clothes, shoes. So,
right, and then I would also and I would heap the accountability on the gaming community that, look, if we're going to grouse about fat cats and AAA games and investor-owned companies, right, and how they behave, and we're going to say, no, we want more of what the indies do, and they're showing a good balancing act, and they're not greedy, then we need to freaking toss money at the indies, and we need to stop saying, "Well, I'm not going to buy your game because you didn't put it in Game Pass on day one," right? And we need to stop saying that, "Oh yeah, indies are doing it right. That's what the market wants." When we clearly see the sales data that says that's not the case. They're not selling as well. They're not here in these top 10 lists, right? That you're going down, right? And have the gaming community stop being hypocritical and saying that that's what's in demand and that's what people want, when we have the sales data that proves that it's not the case. And when they're not out here on Twitter raising those indie games up and posting gameplay and telling people to go play them, they're more invested in telling people to play the first party stuff, right? Because they're trying to gain, right, cred and whatever for their platform.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, to your point, I mean, they are cheaper avenues to game, but people don't often support those smaller studios. So there's cheaper avenues at levels they do with some of the more expensive stuff. And we see that per, Circana every month. So let me go to the monthly active users, top 10 monthly active users for the Xbox. Call of Duty was number 1, Fortnite 2, Roblox 3, Minecraft 4, Grand Theft Auto 5, EA College Sports 25, 6, Mafia Definitive Edition 7. That was 458 the month before, but I believe that is in Game Pass, if I'm not mistaken. Valorant is 8, Rainbow Six Siege is 9, NBA 2K24 is 10.
Now, what I will say, can you go back to that list? Sorry. What I will say is that Mafia DE is a great example of how you want Game Pass to perform and have an impact on the market, right? Small, undersung title that doesn't get, in my opinion, the flowers that it's due, down at 458. They come out with a remaster. Here's Strauss Zelnick, right, who's notorious for saying, I'm not putting my premium, right, big FOMO games in Game Pass, right? Choosing to do that if you're correct and that the game is in Game Pass, right? And then experiencing this knock-on effect, right? Because I'm sure that Strauss made sure that consumption credits were woven into his deal. And so 2K is getting paid something, right, for that effort.
Yeah. It's in Game Pass. I just confirmed that, by the way. I thought it was. I was pretty sure it was, but yeah.
Yeah, and then like this being the publisher who's the owner of GTA, who has been in this, 3 console generations now we've been on GTA 5, and is notorious for squeezing pennies, right, and throttling everyone that they can out of its consumer base, shaking you out your pockets, NBA 2K, right? But hopefully this type of incentive tells them that there's a place in the market for titles like this, right?
Yeah, to your point, I mean, that's exactly what Strauss has said. Like, hey, it doesn't make sense for our premium titles to go day and date in Game Pass, but perhaps at a later date, that does make sense for us to do that, right? Once we've hit that, point where, we've exhausted, that retail, the ability to sell at retail, to put those games in Game Pass to try to drive additional engagement. So that's the top 10 for Xbox. Here's the top 10 for Steam for the monthly active users for August 2024. Deadlock is number 1. Counter-Strike 2 is 2. Helldivers 2 is 3. Baldur's Gate 3 is 4. Baldur's Gate, look, it's just game of the generation. One of the best games I've ever played, Ham. Did you play it? I don't remember if you played it or.
I did play it. I keep going back to it every once in a while.
Going back to it, yeah.
It's a little too laborious of a do loop for me, but I get it. I know why people like it.
Yeah. Elden Ring 5, Once Human 6, Rocket League 7, Lethal Company 8, Risk of Rain 2, 9, 7 Days to Die 10. The top 10 games per month active users on Steam. Mm-hmm.
Are those all, with the exception of Baldur's Gate 3, which does have co-op, and Elden Ring? These are, they're all gas games.
Yeah. Yep.
And Deadlock, it's amazing. Deadlock's not even out. Like it's so behind the curtain that Valve doesn't even refer to the thing as early access It's just planned release date to be announced. Like there's no releasability label on this thing. But they do have people who are allowed to play it. I don't even know how you get into it. But yeah, there it is at the top of the list.
Yep. Let's look at all right, let's go to.
But Valve's a bad publisher who has a bad platform, because they haven't done showcases that have shown first party games.
Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna get the September numbers from Matt Piscatella at Circana in about 2 weeks. This is coming out October 23rd. So interesting to see how September the top games for September, and if there was a rebound of sorts for hardware. Oh, interesting. Just Corden, if you're an Xbox or PlayStation console gamer who could at least theoretically afford a gaming PC but doesn't want to game on PC, what are your reasons for sticking with the console?
Interesting. Is that in your thread feed, or is that like your pinned?
No, this is no, I'm not logged in a thread. This was just under Matt Piscatella's thread.
Huh.
Yeah, interesting. Ham, did you want to discuss PC?
Sure, we can start with Jez's question there.
Yeah, I think it's
Can you scroll back down to it? Sorry.
Yeah, let me scroll back down to it. My quick 2 cents here. I think it's just a matter of why are you sticking with, because you like consoles. That's just your preference. And it could be for a variety of reasons, but I just think people just like consoles. They like to game on consoles,
Yeah, and
I don't know. Yeah, go ahead.
When you and I talked earlier today, like I was a little salty about this question, feeling like it was engagement from. Like, quite honestly, like in retrospect, I don't mind the question. I think he's probably researching for an article, and I think it's fine, right, to kind of get a post out there that kind of aggregates, in a honest questioning kind of way, in not a consoles suck, you should all be on PC, right? And seeing people's outrage responses to that, right, or the opposite. I think this is a fine kind of consumer research question, so I think that's fine. And then but by the same token, all of the responses are all very predictable responses and things that I could have rattled off the top of my head without this question being asked. I think one of the things that I posted, and again, not in direct response to Jez, because I don't interact with Jez. What I said is, so first of all, if a person can theoretically afford a gaming PC, but they have consumer behaviors that vector them in the direction of consoles, then that is also a consumer who could also afford to buy all of the consoles and therefore not be missing out on anything as far as they're concerned in terms of access to games. And therefore that person would not need to do things like certain camps do, like grouse about exclusives. By the same token, like that, there's other people in that demographic who are doing victory laps about this whole announcement yesterday from Sarah Bond that now you're going to be able to buy games. You're going to be able to buy Xbox games on Steam, or I'm sorry, on Android. And I'm like, that's good, but let's make sure we process this thoroughly, right? So first of all, I'll actually start with the latter thing that I wrote. First of all, just to make sure that we understand, because I see narratives already kind of burbling around a misunderstanding of this. Google never blocked Xbox from selling its games on Android. What Google did require is that if you were going to sell something, a digital product on Android, just like Apple does in iOS, you're going to process it through our payment system, and you're therefore going to give us a 30% cut. Xbox, and I'm not saying this to say anything bad about Xbox. Xbox took choices that everybody else did, and Xbox said, I don't want to give you 30%. So yay, verily, as a result, I am going to choose not to sell those digital products on Android. So that's the vendor's choice. Granted, one that they were heavily incentivized and shoved into a corner to make. But that's the vendors who are choosing not to do that, right? It's the same reason Amazon doesn't sell digital products, right, on iOS or Android, and they make it, and therefore it's a pain in the butt for you to go off the phone to a certain extent and buy those products, right? I read comic books, right? I can't buy comic books on iOS or Android in order to buy comic books, or when I watch movies on Amazon Prime or whatever. In order to buy them, I have to go to a PC or go to the console, right, to make those purchases. However, what I will point out in this case is, number one, you can reach the web through a browser on your phone. So there's been nothing, my point being, there's been nothing preventing people from going and buying those games on the web or on console and accessing them via the cloud on their phone. What I would contend is this isn't going to be some groundswell bow wave of people suddenly playing more Xbox games on Android, because if they wanted to do that, that access path has been there for them the entire time. Those games have been there the entire time. So much like this whole thing about people want to play games on phones, but then when those AAA games showed up on phones, nobody bought them. Right. This is my proof that, there's paradigms that people like to use to play games. Size of screen matters as a requirement, as a person's entertainment ROI. So this isn't like the big victory. I think this isn't the thing that's going to make some change in market share. I think that people are predicting. So back to the PC console thing. Jez asks a fine question, and I just think, like I said, there are gamers, just gamers. That's all they want to do is game. And so the choice about going on to PC for them is a matter mainly of cost. And there are some gamers who agree to eat that cost, right, and game on PC. But the PC demographic also consists of a large number of PC enthusiasts who were not on PC just because we play games. We're on PC because we like building. We're on PC for choice, because we care about picking what color switches are underneath my keyboard caps, right? Whether I'm on Cherry MX or brown or blue, right? Because I get to pick my mouse, I get to pick my headset with a wider array of vendors than tend to be available on console. Because I do other things with my PC, like video editing, like audio editing. So there are people who just play games who aren't interested in being bothered with any of that. And just because they can afford it, that doesn't mean that they necessarily want to go to PC.
Yeah, I mean, that's I don't disagree. I mean, for quite some time, I didn't even really toy with the idea of going to PC, and it wasn't because of the cost of PC. It was just because it wasn't my preference. I wanted to sit on the couch. It was just more appealing for me to just plug and play, and sit in front of a large screen TV and just game that way. My preference has since changed, but I think sometimes it just comes down to, like we always talk about on the show here, it just comes down to the requirements that each consumer has, what they want, what they want out of a console, what they want out of a specific platform, gaming platform. So
yeah, so there's been a lot of effort to make this conversation about frames, resolution, performance, and I'm like, guys, that's not the sum, right, total of why people are making that decision.
Well, if you're slow, it is.
I would contend, like,
there's some people that do that for that reason. That
I don't think you make the decision. Maybe you make the decision solely for that, but I don't think that's why you stay. Right? You stay for the freedom, and you stay for the choice, and you stay for the flexibility, and you stay for the options. Because when you get to something like a PlayStation 5 Pro, again, like we were talking about earlier today, right? Gamers don't play frames per second. Gamers don't play resolution, right? Because before Digital Foundry, you didn't even know those things. Gamers play experiences, and what somebody going after a PlayStation 5 Pro is going for is for an experience that is ease of lift, a low barrier of entry, right, in terms of usability, ease of use, staying in an ecosystem like you talked about earlier, right, being willing to be in a walled garden. For somebody like me who's currently making a transition to all iOS, right, I've agreed to go into the walled garden. I've agreed to go in a direction that provides me simplicity, flexibility, usability over kind of my universal ability to dig into a file system and dork around with something at a deep layer of settings, because I don't necessarily know that I need that anymore. So, there are people who've been in that direction, and for somebody who wants that experience at the height in which it can be delivered, a $700 PlayStation 5 Pro may be an acceptable target for them. But I think that the people... Yeah, go ahead.
Just a quick question. So you're saying that people don't... This is where I might disagree with you, but I want to ask this question before I arrive to that final conclusion. I disagree with you, but are you saying that people don't maybe game on PC or higher end devices for frames and resolution?
I'm saying that is not the sole reason. I'm saying if that were the only thing, I don't know that those people would stay there for years and years and years.
Okay.
I don't believe at volume and at scale across the entire PC base, right? So we're talking 300 something million users. I don't think people go onto PC and they stay just because they can play at frames higher than a console. I think that there are other reasons they stay. Maybe those reasons are that they enjoy building. Maybe those reasons are they enjoy doing all the other stuff that you can do on a PC. Maybe they stay because, again, they get that flexibility of the ecosystem, right? They get to choose keyboard, mouse, headset, other peripherals.
So, yeah. So you're saying that it's not just frames per second, because talking to Slow-Mo, in fairness, talking to Slow-Mo is where I might maybe slightly disagree. I think for Slow-Mo, it is about, and I wish he was here. I don't want to speak for him, but just from my interpretation of things that he has said about PC gaming is that for him, it is about frames per second. And playing with, higher resolution, higher frames, better visuals, graphics, things like that.
I will call Slow-Mo out deliberately, and I will offer him the chance to either come here or I'll come to him to meet him anywhere to talk this out in public. I would contend that because of the very fact that Slow-Mo is a builder, that's not the only thing that attracts him to PC.
Okay.
That he enjoys the build process. And being the fact that he has bought multiple GPUs in a single generation, I don't think that's the only reason he stays. I think it's akin to like a motorcyclist, right? Who you don't ride motorcycles just because it's convenient and it uses less gas, right? You use it for the other things that driving that motorcycle experience brings to you. You don't fall in love with sports cars, right, and drive a Mustang 5.0 or high performance vehicles or exotics simply because you need a means of conveyance, right? There's other things that you enjoy out of the gaming experience.
But isn't it building for him too motivated by frames per second and better performance?
To an extent, yeah. But But my point is, he could also go out and buy a pre-built and get that.
Okay, I see what you're saying. So you're saying that it's part of the tinkering process. It is not to achieve the higher frames, but I mean, because for me, like, why I game on PC is because of the higher frames, the better visuals, resolution. Well, not resolution per se, because I'm on a 1440p, but just better graphics, better frames, and the flexibility to really tinker with those settings.
But you just said it right there, right? The flexibility to tinker with those settings. So even though maybe you're not as deep down right in the end of the pool where Slow-Mo and I are in the tinkering, you're still attracted to PC because it gives you an ability to tailor and configure the process, the experience to your liking, and you're not solely locked into a presentation format that the developer decided.
Yeah, I'm not beholden to developer. I mean, that's one of my biggest complaints about consoles. I mean, to an extent, I think Sony, from a first party perspective, has done a very nice job at adding or providing more options, more flexibility in that regard. But that is totally one of the reasons why I really enjoy a PC is just that flexibility. And then I'm not beholden to what the developer says. This is how you're going to play this game. You can either take it or leave it.
Yeah, exactly. Like literally, like it kind of cracks me up. Like there is no such thing as a performance and a fidelity mode on PC. know? And I mean, and I get it. On console, that's been all the rage, right? That's been the cause of like, almost fist fights breaking out on Twitter, right? Because quite frankly, and I was one of them, because I'm angry when a game gets delivered on console and it doesn't give you that option for a fidelity versus performance mode, right? My biggest crankiness, and this is why I can't stand all these journalists, right? And I've been saying, please just sit in a corner and shut your mouth. All these journalists coming out and saying, 30 frames per second isn't a big deal. And I'm like, it's not simply the matter that it's not 60 frames per second. It's that they're not giving me the choice. Oh, well, we want to present it to you in this detail level. Okay, so you're choosing to dictate experience to me. Understand that my uptake is to choose to not buy your game. Now, that's just me. Maybe you might think that if one person thinks that way, maybe more people think that way in a given market, right? But I'm like, if you only give me a 30 frame per second option at high detail, that's great. But then that's also one of the cornerstone reasons of why I play on PC, because I want to have the ability to make the choice to play at 1440p and get higher frames per second. Because to me, my matter of visual acuity or just how much I care, like I don't really necessarily care, right, that it's at 4K. It's very analogous to music, right? There was all this Sturm and Drang, a decade ago. People were like, oh, MP3s are horrible. The 128 bits per second is unacceptable. And I'm like, guys, like who there's understand that there's tons of people who listen to music who don't care if it's 120, if it's more than 128 bits per second, because they don't pay attention. It's background noise. They're not listening to it that closely. Yes, there are audiophiles who want $500 and above headphones, right? Who pay attention to that stuff, but your vast majority of the market doesn't, right? And I'm not saying it's the vast majority of the market on the PC, but I'm like, look, there's tons of people who like at a certain level of visual fidelity, above that, like it's diminishing returns. I would rather have the 60 frames per second with lower res and lower image quality. That's just me.
Yeah. Real quick, I want to give a big shout out to Ice Queen Gaming for becoming a member, a BRAP VIP member. So thank you for that, Ice Queen Gaming. Let's see here. It looks like Corey Massey says logic. He says there is a quality versus performance mode on PC.
I don't recall any PC game that I have that there's literally a light switch that you flip between quality and performance mode.
He's talking about DLSS, I believe, where you have performance, quality, balance, stuff like that.
Yeah, but again, that's not a binary switch, right? You flip that and it impacts some subset of characteristics in the game's performance, but then you have tons of other bells and whistles that you can, roll the dials, flip the switches, pull the levers on.
Yeah, what you're saying is like literally to your this is a great analogy. Literally just a light switch where where PC there's a light switch and then there's other gauges that levers as you say you could pull under that light switch.
Right.
Yeah. No, I get that. Yeah.
And that's also not a platform specific thing. That's NVIDIA and AMD specific implementation of it, where with their resolution scaling technologies, right? They have various settings that run the gamut from quality, balanced, performance, and ultra performance that render certain effects specific to the GPU that you have deployed and how they have that coded. That's not a platform thing. Windows doesn't dictate that. NVIDIA and AMD did that.
Yeah. But back to your I'm sorry, Ham, go on. Do you have anything else you wanted to say about the PC thing? Because it's kind of been my frustration out of that conversation was that one article with IGN that I pointed out where they said you could build a PC that's I forget what word they use, or on par. It wasn't on par. It was something to that effect. That was kind of, I'm like, well, wait a minute. Like the GPU you guys even picked for the PCs, not even on par. Doesn't have the same feature sets as the GPU.
Yeah, that was an article by the
Pro. Yeah,
that was an article by the hardware shopping editor, by the way.
Go figure.
I think I pointed that out, right? So for the audience who's listening, right, just to be clear, for people who haven't tracked this, right? So, and I can't even remember these acronyms. I pulled them a few weeks ago, but so 5 years ago ish, things around SEO started changing, and how Google tracks analytics for advertising changed. And so what that caused is it kind of caused a huge disruption across the web. And what it gave rise to is what you see now, which is all of these articles that pop up on a daily basis that say, the Xbox wireless headset is down to its lowest price ever. And that is in the news feed, right? It's not in a separate shopping feed. There are articles, like when Prime Day went down. Like I've been a hardware editor for 20 years, and these are the best deals of things that I would buy on Amazon. So there are all these articles that are disguised as web articles, right? Notice also that they skirt the FCC. I think it's either the FCC or the FTC rules that would tell them that they would have to label something clearly as an ad or sponsored. And the reason for that is because the new Google manner of gathering analytics is there's a new regime. Again, I can't remember, there's an acronym for it. But it invokes like trustworthiness and other things. And what it says is you basically can't SEO a bunch of stuff in the way that you used to do just by keywords. It has to be based on content, and it has to be based on narrative. And so now people write these articles, right? Instead of just posting, hey, here are some good deals. They write these articles. They're disguised as news. They're not overtly as listed as ads. But when you go into them, look for articles that have a ton of links, because those are all affiliate links, and those are all things that allow them to get paid. Also, these articles will also not have the warning that says, heads up, if you click on an affiliate link, blah blah blah, may get paid or may earn from that, right? Some of them will have it, some of them won't, but it allows them to skirt the rules. So understand that those are articles that would not be written right in the normal news cycle in the days of SEO. Those are articles that are specifically written now as a part of the business model of websites and media, right, in order to get you to buy things. And so therefore, they are not driven by the logic of actual assessment in analyzing the consumer market. And so those articles at their very base are disingenuous, right, is the big takeaway that you need to make from that. So yeah, that's why that article was written. And the big problem with it is, as is was the case with Digital Storm, as was the case with JZ 2 cents. They do things like they tell you to buy a motherboard that's already been superseded by socket. If it's an Intel board, there's a new socket that's coming out that just came out this month, because Arrow Lake S is on an LGA 1851 socket. We don't even know if that socket's going to be around after Arrow Lake. So they're telling people to go buy these boards that, like, the first time you go to upgrade, because you didn't do the analysis ahead of time, if you're listening to these people instead of actually learning, the first time you go to do an upgrade, you're going to find a number of roadblocks where you don't have an upgrade path. They're telling people to go buy DDR4 when the world has moved on to DDR5, and it's just accelerating and getting faster. And you're going to find that, across your 8 basic core components, you're going to have a infrastructure level impediment that's going to force you to actually spend more money to upgrade it and move that platform forward than you would have if you had actually made intelligent choices about what parts you picked. And that's why so many of the arguments are just disingenuous and in bad faith.
Clicks, man, clicks. Right? It's about driving viewership, I think, unfortunately.
Right.
Yeah. But go ahead.
So Captain Ply's comment: more and more console games are trying to get those same adjustments and visual adjustments as time goes. Captain Ply, I will agree with you that it's starting to increase, but I'm looking at it across the spectrum, right? So I look at the spectrum of games, and not every game does this on PC, but lots of games on PC have upwards of 19 options that you can go in and toggle. And unless you're looking at something like maybe Spider-Man is the one that I can remember that has had the most toggles on console, your average scale of options on console that you could toggle is typically around just 1 or 2, right? And there are some that are providing you maybe a half dozen, right? And Spider-Man is kind of outside that spectrum, but it's much more normalized on PC. And I don't disagree with you. Console players are getting the ability to tailor their experiences a lot more today than they had in the past. And that's why I say consoles are a great fit for people. I don't think they're a substitute for PCs. They're not a substitute for me, because I use my PCs to do more than just game. But for some segment of the market, and that's the point really that BRAP and I are getting to, is the segmentation of the market and putting the brakes on these conversations that flatten the market, remove the complexity for the conversation, and talk about a one size fits all approach.
Yeah, that's the part that's kind of frustrating me, is that the conversation always seems to go down the path of it's a one size fits all in gaming. And it's somewhat, like, to your point, Logic, it's so much more complex than that. And I said this earlier in the show, like gamers just have different requirements, some gamers want to do the tinkering. Like it's funny. We were just having this conversation in the BRAP DM about, me upgrading a GPU and me saying, hey, I'm going to take my PC to Micro Center and have them install the GPU. It's not something I want to deal with. I don't want that headache. Where Slubbo's like, hey, you know what? I'm going to go pick up a GPU at Best Buy, and this afternoon I'm just going to throw it into my PC case and be done with it. I just don't want to deal with that headache. There are people that want to build PCs. I'm not one of them. I will buy a customized pre-built PC, or have someone build it for me and pay for that and be totally happy with it. And other people are like, BRAP, why are you doing that? It's so much better if you buy it yourself, or you buy the parts and build it yourself. I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to deal with the headache. I don't want to deal with the stress that comes along with that, or trying to troubleshoot. I figure out, did I not hook something up correctly? I don't have to deal with that.
Well, and that's the point I was trying to make in the tweet that I put out earlier today, right? That there's, again, the PC market is not just one demographic. People aren't just there to play games at the highest fidelity. They're there for other reasons. And so sometimes there's a part of the arguments that people are making that fit. There's no part of the $700 argument that fits, right? I will go on the record, and people can try and call me out about it. I will go on the record that any recommendation you have seen for a $700 PC is a disingenuine, false flag, bad recommendation that's going to get you into trouble and is going to wind up forcing the consumer to spend more money over the first upgrade time, right, than they would have had they made more prudent choices and given themselves an upgrade path. There is no $700 PC, and the whole thing of tightly coupling that to the notion of don't buy a PlayStation 5 Pro is just idiotic. If you have a reason to tell people, if you want to make a recommendation to tell people to not buy a PlayStation 5 Pro, do that and articulate that argument, right, and make your case separate from go buy a $700 PC, because they are false equivalencies. Right. And you should be able to make a cogent argument for people to not buy a PlayStation 5 Pro without leaning on the crutch of the $700 PC argument. People who are making that argument, in my opinion, are non-intellectuals who fall short of the full capability that they would need to actually make such a case.
Yeah.
Yeah, go
ahead.
If you want to tell people to build a PC, tell them to build a PC and tell them about the pitfalls and the ins and outs and the choices that they're making. Right. There is a point where there's an appropriate $700 PC. It's like I said to you earlier today, BRAP, and like I put on Twitter, broke ass college kids who can't afford anything else are fine building $700 PCs. Your 15-year-old, right, who's on baby's first PC, fine for him to build a $700 PC. Fine for him to actually build a $500 PC built based on old parts, right? Because it's a learning activity for him. It's a learning curve. They're at the outset of their careers. They're going to eventually earn more money. It's fine for them to be stuck, right, and make choices. That's part of their life experience. Like I don't have any sympathy for them, right? But telling another consumer that, hey, you're going to spend $700 and you're going to be just fine is just a lie, just straight out.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you. And to your point, you will wind up spending more money than that $700. Because you're gonna hit walls at some point.
Yeah, you hit roadblocks.
Yeah, and it's just gonna be and you're gonna pull your hair out. So I want to grab the super chat here from Bulbor Country, $2 super chat. Says, what happened to artistic vision? Don't edit my art. I have no idea what you're referring to, Bulbor.
I think I know.
What's he referring to?
And Bulbor, thanks so much for coming back. I've missed you. I'm glad. I haven't
seen Bulbor in a while.
Yeah, I'm glad to see you. Like you are one of the you are part of the fiber that binds the communities together, and so I'm glad to see you back. I think what Bulbor is saying is he's saying, hey, isn't there an argument for the artist presenting a game to you in the way that their artistic vision directs it? And so that could either.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah.
That could either be a knock on my thing about, like, on PC, you can tailor the picture, but also it could also be a knock on my comment about, hey, I don't want you handcuffing me to a 30 frame per second frame rate because you want to present something to me at a certain level of graphical fidelity. And that's acceptable. Totally acceptable. What I'm saying is, you can choose to make the choice. I say this all the time. game developers get the chance to, and the opportunity, and they should have the right to make the kind of game they want to make and to make the design choices that they make. This is why I would never say Souls games shouldn't exist. I definitely would never say they shouldn't be allowed to make an Assassin's Creed game. I wouldn't say Horizon.
Logic. If you said Souls games shouldn't exist, you wouldn't be on the show anymore, sir.
and I wouldn't say Horizon Forbidden West, right, should have done things differently, because there were Zero Dawn fans who like wanted something different. But my point is that yes, you as a developer get to make your choice, and then I as a consumer get to make my choice about whether or not I want to buy it and whether I want to play and whether or not I'm happy with it. And I'm saying I'm not happy with a game that dictates to be 30 frames per second to achieve a certain visual quality.
Yeah. And so then you don't buy it.
Right. Yeah. Or I don't play it, or I don't have a high opinion of it. Whatever the choice is.
Yeah, that's a give and take. Let's see here. Blake McNeman says $700 is a lot, not worth it to me, but anyone saying that you can make a PC with PS5 Pro performance is disingenuous. Yeah, I don't disagree. That goes back to my issue with the IGN article. The obvious, the thing that really stood out to me is the GPU doesn't have any of the feature sets of the PlayStation 5 Pro. So it's not an apples to apples. I just can't get past it. That just drove me nuts. I'm like, really, guys? Like, this is really disingenuous. It's not equivalent. That's the word they use, equivalent. It's not equivalent by any stretch of the imagination. Well,
and it's also not equivalent. And here's the big fallacy. Yeah. It's also not equivalent in the experience you're going to get, right? Because, right, a thing, and again, this is where they're trading so much on people's just lack of awareness or knowledge. PC is a great platform. I'm a PC only gamer, right? PC accomplishes the vast majority of where the PC pulls away. It just does it by brute force. The comparison between PC and a console is very much like when you're playing a racing game and you've got a car with a bunch of horsepower that doesn't corner very well, right? And so depending on the track, you're always going to get outraced by the guy who corners well until you get on the straightaway, and then you're going to blow him away based on brute force and raw horsepower. And that is literally the best comparison between PC and console. Is there's a ton of stuff that happens on PC just by brute force. Just because we can cool it better, we put it in a bigger enclosure, right? We can have more bus width, like all those things. And so, right, but what that also means is that when like games can be optimized for a console in a way that outstrips the degree of optimization that they can achieve on a PC, at least within the risk envelope. That's not saying it will never happen. There are definitely games on PC that at the end of the day, overall in aggregate, can perform better. But like if I take a swath of 100 games and I build a metric around how well optimized and tuned they are against 100 games that were made just for a console, I'm gonna achieve a higher metric for that on console than I am on PC. And so the reality is that PC gamer has access to a wider aperture, but the nuances of how well optimized those games are for that PC platform may not be as high. They may still outperform them, right, in a raw frame per second, right, comparison. But at the end of the day, the console may wind up doing more with less, right, because the aperture of variance is tighter and smaller and lesser for developers to contend with.
By the way, Ham, speaking of PC, today is the 25th anniversary of the GeForce 256, which was released in 1999.
I well remember that year. That was my first like major GPU. I had bought a Voodoo Banshee before that when I was kind of like a toddler PC gamer. But I would probably say when that GeForce 256 came out, that's probably when I got ridiculous with it, because if I remember the iteration between the GeForce 256 and I want to say, I guess, the 512 or whatever came after that. This is back when Creative Labs, by the way, made cards. In fact, they made I think it was the first GeForce card at retail. They made the Annihilator. Was the card, came in a black box, blue writing. And I think it was like the Annihilator 256, and then I think they followed up with the Annihilator 512. I may not be exactly correct about that, but like they came out in very close proximity to each other, like not like these 2-4 year cycles we see sometimes between GPUs architectures. And yay, verily, I went out and immediately bought the upgrade when the new one came out.
Yeah. Jeez, man, 25 years. That's crazy. That actually just popped up on my feed here that it was the 25th anniversary of that of the GeForce 256. So released October 11th, 1999. There were two versions. There was an SDR version which released in October, and then the DDR version which released mid-December of 1999 as well. But let's see here. So the greatest, Corey Master says the greatest strength of PC game is also the greatest weakness. The fact you could choose your hardware is the best thing about PC game, but it's also the worst thing about it. Blake McBennett says I like PC gaming, but I'm not super tech savvy. And I have to have a friend recommend parts and install with them when I want to upgrade. I love the simplicity of consoles. All right, Logic, I do want to go to one thing here. Are you done with, I don't want to cut you off, Logic. I know you were talking about PC and some of kind of what you've been seeing from content creators around PC gaming. Is there anything else you want to discuss in regards to that particular topic? Oh, so BRAP, Hamp had to step away. He'll be back. All right. They had worse performance than my NVIDIA Riva TNT2. You're talking about the yeah, because the Predator, the Riva TNT2 came out before the GeForce 256. And I don't remember the performance of the Riva TNT2. I know that the GeForce 250s did improve. I think in its pixel pipelines. I don't remember. There were some improvements, but I don't remember how each performed versus the other. Yeah, it's just interesting, like, you know, kind of go back to the conversation about PC console and, you know, kind of the one size fits all approach and the conversation that people have. And it's kind of one of my biggest complaints around the conversation around gaming in general and what we see on Twitter or X or what we see from certain content creators, podcasters. It's always more complicated than how these individuals present the conversation. As I talked about earlier, that each consumer has different requirements, have have different cost appetite or how much they're willing to spend. It's not as simple as one size fits all. It just really isn't, and that's part of the frustration that I have with when I see some of these conversations around games.
Yeah, you shouldn't have to climb on the back of other gamers in order to assert what you like or what you love. Like,
yeah, I mean,
so much of the gaming conversation is the way you game. You know, the way I game is so great because the way you game sucks. And I'm like, why does that second part ever need to be mentioned?
It shouldn't be mentioned at all. I mean, how you game is going to be different than how someone else is. It's going to be different than how someone else's game or how someone else games, and how that other person games while it's different than you like how you game doesn't make how they game wrong. It just makes it different, and that may work for them.
Right. It's also what keeps the industry healthy, because if the industry was all trying to make one size fits all, the industry would be in an even worse state than it is now.
I don't disagree with that. That's why I always complain. That's one of my complaints of the conversation around gaming. People seem to be so angry these days, and they don't celebrate or champion the variety of content that we get, and the variety of different ways we get to experience and play content, engage gaming. I mean, Hamp, you and I have been playing games for 40 something years each. There wasn't a Game Pass back then. They weren't free to play games. You know, I mean, there was like 3 ways from what I recall, to play video games. You bought a home console, Atari, whatever it was. You went to the arcade, or you bought a PC. You know, if you're lucky, you got an Amiga or a Commodore. You know.
Yeah, and I mean, back then, like those PCs weren't even really primary gaming devices. Like back in those days, I don't think you would ever buy a PC just to play games. Like families were investing in buying PCs because they thought there was something for their kids to learn. But it wasn't like an alternative gaming device to like an Atari 2600, I don't think.
Yeah, no, there really wasn't. I mean, and you didn't have like the free to play model. You didn't have indies. You had pretty much a single price point for buying video games, and so we should be celebrating how diverse gaming is now. But instead it becomes this teardown.
Remember you could also play games on handheld. There's the Split Second. There are the little Mattel blippy LED blip football games.
The football ones, yeah, with the dots. Yeah. You had handheld. I mean, yeah, you had. Yeah, I mean, those weren't really on par with like something like Atari. But yeah, you're right. I mean, there's different ways. It just man, it just frustrates me when I see that stuff. You know, yeah, this right here. I agree with what Miko just said here. Miko, thank you for saying this. Social media has done irreparable damage to the conversation. I couldn't agree more. It absolutely has.
Yep.
And to that, and an example of that, I'm going to bring this up here real quick. Miko, great segue here, by the way. All right, let me pull this up here. All right, so this is again, this goes back to I gotta be honest with you, Logic. I've been thinking about it, and this is I'm probably a bit more lathered up about this than I normally would because it's an election year and I really don't like misinformation, disinformation. I feel like we need to have better conversations around gaming. I'm at a point now. I think we need to do a better job at gatekeeping. But some of the stuff here, some of the commentary by content creators, in particular this individual here, which I'm going to share, you can see his name here to the left. It just dumbs down the conversation around gaming. Doesn't do anything to really stimulate good conversation around video games or the industry in particular. Let me play this real quick.
And all of those games that these PlayStation players are going to buy, they're going to buy them at $70. And that's great for Microsoft. I mean, I'm not seeing any money from it. And I understand. And I did say this as being slanderous. Every game that a PlayStation gamer buys that's owned by Microsoft is more for the next acquisition, which is probably going to be Take-Two in 2026. Like that, that's happening.
That's what we're hoping.
I really think it is going to happen at some point because it just makes sense. And
Logic. It just makes sense argument drives me bonkers. Like, it just makes sense is not an argument. You know what I mean? It's not an argument. Where's the business? Where is the business case here for Take-Two?
It just made sense to acquire Activision Blizzard. And I guess that means it just made sense to hemorrhage north of $2 billion over the 3 quarters since they've owned them. It just made sense that bringing them on board and maybe not having full vision of what the impact was. Just made sense for them to pivot business models in February. It just made sense to leave people without a voice track and not understanding things, and for rumors to flare out of control in the February timeframe. And it just made sense to start publishing their games on every platform. It just made sense to say that every screen is now an Xbox, and to hinge hopes that there are some latent gamers that somehow have the X gene and are going to become mutants and start playing video games because those games now are available on Android handhelds, as if they haven't been available there before, because they absolutely have. It just made sense. By the way, Take-Two market cap right now, $27.2 billion. I've seen it as high as 27.3. Microsoft cash on hand as of June 2024 is $75 billion. We know Satya wants money for AI. That's what he is more concerned about this year, now that the acquisition is behind him. I believe, and I'm firmly out on the speculation limb here, my assessment is, hey, we're going to do this, and then we got to take care of other stuff. And the other stuff now is AI. And I would have to hear some better argument for why $30 billion would be given over. And by the way, market cap at 27.3 billion, as you mentioned, right? You're going to have to pay a price premium for that to get investors willing to let go of the potential earnings. And so you're probably going to have to pay close to 35 billion for Take-Two.
Well, it just makes sense. I mean, that is literally the foundation of his argument. It just makes sense. This is the problem. Like, we've talked about this on the show a lot of I've lost count now how many times we've talked about the conversations around gaming on the show, but this is the frustration here. It needs to be, the conversation shouldn't be this dumbed down as it just makes sense. It needs to go further that it just makes sense. Like, what is the business case here? What are the reasons? What are the actual realities of Microsoft wanting to your point? I think you said Take-Two's market cap is what, 27 billion?
About 27.3 billion. Yeah.
27 billion. Okay. So you know that Microsoft's going to pay a premium because Take-Two is going to want a premium. They're going to be like, hey, we know what you guys gave ABK. We're going to want something more than that because we feel we're like, we have this thing called Grand Theft Auto 6, right?
Yeah, and you're talking about making this offer for acquisition like just before Grand Theft Auto 6 comes out, or when it's out, or shortly after. And they're literally good. I mean, they're having conversations that one title, and I don't necessarily agree with all of these prognostications, but that one title is somehow gonna just be this huge shot of adrenaline to the entire console industry and start and kind of restart the heat behind hardware sales. And I'm like, investors aren't going to look at that and say, oh yeah, just hey, just pay us the 27 bill and we're good. Just have us break even. No, you're going to pay the cost of the company plus the potential earnings that they're looking at from GTA 6. And at that point, the thing won't even have launched on PC yet. So that's more potential earnings coming in.
But this is the part that drives me crazy. You just provided additional nuance, right, to the conversation. He's saying that this is going to happen. He thinks it's going to happen in 2026. And I'm sorry to sit there and say, oh, because as they usually do, oh, well, it's my opinion. No, I mean, an opinion is not an excuse for what I would say is ignorance. In this case, like, in that it just makes sense. There just needs to be more nuance, more better dialogue around gaming, which is why I wanted to share this again, because again, as I often say on the show, like, we need better conversations around gaming. If you're going to make an assertion that Microsoft is going to buy a publisher the size of Take-Two, and that's going to happen in 2026, you need to build out the business case for it. And you didn't do that because you don't know how this works. You don't know how business works. This individual on this show has numerous occasions say, hey, I don't know how business works. Then why are you making comments like this? And this is the problem that I have with content creators, some content creators abundance, that they say things like this, and this often fuels these false narratives, the console wars around, oh, look what Microsoft's going to buy now. or look what company A is going to do now. Because they start playing fantasy football in their head and start thinking about, ooh, who's Microsoft's going to buy next? Oh, it's going to be Take-Two because it just makes sense.
And certainly not off the causality of shipping games to PlayStation 5. You're not shipping games to PlayStation 5 and making like another $30 billion based on that sole fact. Like, I mean, this is a conversation that might actually be worthwhile having, but I would just have to hear the causality behind it more. So, and maybe it's in the YouTube channel. Maybe it's not in this clip, right? We talk all the time about how things are taken out of context. I tend to, just based on what I know about probably these conversations, I probably, expect that that's not the case. I think there was just a ton of hand wavy, out of thin air, pull out of your butt like speculation around this.
No, this is a pull out your butt speculation moment.
Yeah, I mean, without the caveat that I just mentioned a few minutes ago, right? Where before I dove into the deep end of speculation, I specifically said, okay, we're going out on the limb of speculation here, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is purely speculation, and again, I'm not going to excuse, because again, I know it's just speculation, is opinion. I'm sorry, I just don't. That's not an excuse for making comments like this.
So here we are once again at a point where Hamp is going to help somebody articulate their argument who I don't agree with, but I actually do a better job of it than they do. But we'll proceed. There is one scenario, right? This is like Doctor Strange, right? The one time out of 150 million by which we beat Thanos. There's one scenario where I say this could actually happen, right? In an alternate universe, right? Where John Majors is still Kang. What I would say is if in order to bring Strauss Zelnick on so that they could get rid of Phil, if Strauss said, I will never take over as CEO of Xbox unless you buy Take-Two, I would concur with them potentially buying Take-Two, because Strauss Zelnick is the best person to lead Xbox right now. Definitely a better person than Phil Spencer and his GLT. And so in an alternate universe, I will say Xbox would go after Take-Two because it's an acqui-hire and we want to bring on the leadership talent at Take-Two. Now, I don't actually believe in that causality as a thing that will come out, but I would say that is the only way for me in which it would make sense.
Yeah, I his comment just for me also defies this. Well, oh man, the comment is just like he's not even thinking about the financial considerations here, like we just talked about, their market cap, the fact that it just spent $69 billion in cash. Are the shareholders going to want to spend another, let's say, I think you threw out $35 billion in cash, right, to further, dig into their coffers of cash on hand, right? The answer to that's probably no, considering that they still need to make back the money on. They still need that ROI and the investment in cash to buy ABK. That hasn't happened just yet.
Right. Phil has said it himself on stage. Yeah. He didn't fully flesh out his explanation, but what he absolutely meant when he said we have to pay that money back is he's talking about they need to pay the company back for the investment they made in acquiring Activision.
Yeah, and you're saying that this is going to happen in 2026. So then you're assuming that they're going to make that investment back in 2 years, right?
And this also,
but again, how are they going to make that back? Like, what's that look like? Yeah, go ahead.
And this also didn't invoke any notion of having to thread the regulatory needle, that now you're going to be going back to these people after all of the Sturm and Drang that Brad Smith kicked up, right? You're going to go back to these same regulatory agencies after now having the Bethesda thing behind you, where some of those agencies called you disingenuous for what you told them about Bethesda. And there's nuance to that, but I'm just going to simplify it at that. And then now you've done Activision and you've had the FTC say, you said you weren't going to do this and now you're doing it. So you've been called out for that. Now you're going to go back to those same regulatory agencies within 2 years and tell them, yeah, you let us buy Call of Duty. We handed off the cloud stuff to Ubisoft. You still express concerns, right? But yes, we would like permission to now buy GTA 6.
Yep. I mean, and you already have that regulatory bullseye on your back. Number one, just from that, not just from that acquisition, by the way. But other things. But
by the way, in the wake of the EU now putting out the DMA, and in the wake of court rulings against Google and Apple for monopolistic practices, for what they contend, I don't necessarily fully agree, but what they contend are monopolistic practices around their app stores.
Yeah.
It's just I don't the smell of a complicit regulatory environment that's not wafting off of this for me. I think you guys got in under the wire with the Activision acquisition. I wouldn't expect that the next time, right, you stand on the red carpet that you're going to get as much concurrence.
Especially with Take-Two's got a $27 billion market cap and one of the an owner of one of the largest IPs. And yeah, I mean, you are going to, and this is why I don't understand why he said this. Like, it's like, do you not understand what happened with the ABK deal, the going to court, having to Phil having to testify? I mean, you don't think that this is going to raise eyebrows with the EU and the FTC? The other thing too, I mean, you're also assuming that both companies board shareholders would want this deal to happen, to take place. Why? I mean, why would Take-Two want to sell? I mean, are they in dire straits financially? What are the market conditions for Take-Two right now? What are they going to be in 2026? You know, I mean, there's a lot of different variables that he's not even addressing here, and he's saying, "Oh, because it makes sense." No, it's not just it makes sense. There's so many other factors that go into this. Go ahead.
And the Take-Two is not Activision Blizzard. Their financial profile, the way in which they're capitalized, the way in which their money is backed, is not anything like Activision. You go back and look for an interview in fall of 2023, I believe. I want to say October. But there was an interview that Strauss did with, gosh, I can't remember her name, but it was more of like a media outlet, not necessarily a gaming outlet. And he talked a lot about how like games compete, how, you know, on a per title basis, you know, the gaming industry is weird because games don't really compete against each other. They sometimes compete right against a specific game, but they also really compete with everything. Like it's not like it's the competitive environment isn't like you look at a shooter and you say, well, that's a competitor to Crysis. Well, Crysis really isn't a 1-for-1 replacement, right, for that game. So the competitive landscape isn't the same. But he also talks a lot about, he gives causality to why, right, Microsoft was going after Activision. He talks about how, you know, when you're thinly capitalized, right, that sets you up for that type of acquisition, because you don't. It's like what I talked about, like, you know, yea, verily, Activision Blizzard could definitely ride through a year where Call of Duty wasn't great, right? Like the year of Vanguard. But I don't know that Activision Blizzard could do that like 2 or 3 years in a row, right? What happens with their cash reserves? What happens with liquefiable assets, right? How much of those are backed up? What is their debt to equity ratio? So those types of things that he pointed to, you know, tells me that Take-Two and Strauss is very savvy in terms of guiding the company to make sure that they are set up for longevity and not that their eggs aren't all in one basket, I think, despite the behemoth that GTA is. So I don't believe for a second that, you know, the deal that would have to be negotiated for Take-Two is kind of the bargain, right, to a certain extent that Activision Blizzard was for Microsoft. I think suggesting that they would have to pay $35 billion for Take-Two might actually be lowballing that figure.
Well, I think it might be lowballing. I just pulled up some numbers here, and again, this goes back to the board and investors wanting to share. I just pulled up since 2016, Take-Two stock has returned 386% compared to Activision's 162% return. And this is actually per the Motley Fool. They put out an article. They also say for that outperformance, investors can point to the huge success of Take-Two's Grand Theft Auto 5, which has now sold 145 million copies. That level of sales is game-changing for a business that only generated $1 billion in revenue at the time of the game's release over 7 years ago. Other titles such as NBA 2K series, Red Dead Redemption 2 have performed exceptionally well too. Let's see if there's anything else here. Yeah, but I think the returns is the big thing that I saw here. That 386% compared to Activision's 162% return. Take-Two's free cash flow has also increased significantly by 347% since the launch of Grand Theft Auto 5. Cash flow for Activision doesn't have a date here. Was about 33%, or had seen it increase about 33%. Oh, I'm sorry. Activision had a strong free cash flow margin of 33%. Take-Two's free cash flow has also increased significantly by 347%, again, since the release or launch of Grand Theft Auto 5. So, Hamp, you hear these numbers. What are your thoughts, man?
Yeah, like I said, I mean, the earnings potential of Take-Two is something that I would see as an upward tilting arrow. And like I said, you know, you're not going it. Look, this is not. Oh, by the way, the leader of Take-Two is not Bobby Kotick. You're not picking up the phone and seeing another Kotick scandal drop, and Satye's not rolling over, picking up the phone and saying, "Hey, how about I take Activision Blizzard off your hands for you and give you an exit strategy?"
Yeah, you get that golden parachute.
Yeah, that's not where they is. And let me tell you, the golden like if they're talking about bringing on let me also say, bringing Take-Two on and putting that software portfolio underneath the leadership of Matt Booty as a long-term solution. Like I struggle to think of that in any other way than some of the worst draft decisions that I've seen being made in the NFL, as proven by their starting games out of the gate, that have gone down this past year. Like, Matt Booty will be lucky to handle what he has now. In my opinion, he has been underperforming for a very long time, and the notion of giving that guy more, like, it's just ridiculous. But let me tell you, if you're bringing them on to do that, the golden parachute you're going to pay for Strauss, like, tack on a few more $1 billion, right, to that $35 billion purchase price, which we're already saying is lowballing. All right, yeah, his parachute might not be billions of dollars, but you know, Strauss is going to extract a like Phil might have to go into a room and like make some blood god sacrifices, right, and cut a vein, right, to get that done. Strauss is not going to walk out of the door cheap, so you know, it's an expensive venture, I think, much more so than was even contemplated here, because I don't believe that. I'm assuming that when this comment was made on this podcast, they weren't aware of the market cap of Take-Two or the amount of cash on hand at Microsoft.
Of course they weren't aware of the market cap or cash on hand. You know, I mean, because, you know, it makes sense. And that's the problem. Again, we're not having good conversations around the industry. You know, we're allowing people like this to often drive the conversation, which I think leads to misinformation. And you know, it is, again, as I said earlier, it's a bit more complex, and it just makes sense.
Yeah. So. Hey, BRAP, I'm going to have to step away. So thanks a lot for letting me sit in. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, actually, I'm about to wrap up the show because I need to step away as well. But no, Logic, great having you back on. We had a couple of people ask about you in the live chat the other night, or I think in the comment section, actually, on Wednesday's show. So great to have you back on. And want to thank everyone, the live chat, for tuning in for this Friday rant. Hope everyone has a great weekend. It makes zero sense. Exactly, Simone. Have a great weekend. Enjoy playing video games. Ultimately, that's what it's all about having fun and enjoying those experiences. Excuse me. And then we'll be back next Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern time. So until then, we'll catch you next time. Thank you, everyone.